rapid-fire talks is AndrewHendela with No, Your SBOM Will Not Solve All Your Problems. Please give him a warm welcome.
I'm clapping for myself here, because I figure, you know, I gotta do something. So yeah, maybe a slightly inflammatory title, but I mean, I got you guys to come, so I got you guys to come, so that was it. So what am I gonna do? Really, what I'm here talking about is, yes, SBOM, it's a thing. It's kind of a requirement for a lot of places now. And honestly, it's, yeah, I'll even clap for that. Don't worry, Alan. But I think everyone kind of knows it's not actually going to solve all of the problems. And I think one of the reasons why I bring this up is, I mean, it's kind of like this. Like, step one, software supply chain attacks happen, like SolarWinds happened. And then like a few months later, there's an executive order saying, you know what we need now? SBOM. And it's like, but that doesn't actually solve that problem. Not that they said it did, but you know, it's kind of implied. Question, you know, 3, whatever, and then profit. And I think, honestly, the more frustrating thing for me is once there's a regulation, now there's about 50 million companies that say, hey, I'll build an SBOM for you. And under the hood, it's just, okay, here's like some open source thing that has literally existed for a long time, because SBOM didn't just appear a few years ago. It's been around. But now there's way more companies dealing with it, right? So I think that's just hilarious. So who am I? AndrewHendela. I've been doing over a decade of R&D in automating offensive and defensive cybersecurity problems all over the place. So cyber attribution, exploit development, malware analysis, vulnerability research. Last few years, I've been the co-founder of course, a software supply chain company, so I'm part of the problem, maybe. But really, there's this heavy focus on software supply chain security, but I don't think the tools are really focusing on answering the most important question. If I use this software, will it do something bad? Will something bad actually happen? Now, here's my disclaimer. I'm here me personally, I'm here for 95% for the memes, 5% maybe to get you to think a little bit. And here, this is my opinion. And feel free to be this guy and think I'm an idiot. I'm okay with that. But pretend I'm not for about the next 8 minutes. And then we can talk afterwards. All right. So SBOM, you know, here's a massive ingredients list. This is what an SBOM is, except for software, right? And when you look at this, it doesn't actually help you all that much. Like, you look at it, you're like, okay, water. Okay, I know what water is. Probably need some of that. And then you get down, you're like, gum arabic, lactic acid, leavening, sodium acid maltodextrin. You're like, I don't get this. Because what you actually care about from this is this little thing down here. Does it contain milk? Does it contain wheat? Because maybe you're allergic to something. Like, you care, if I eat this thing, will I die? The problem is, an SBOM doesn't have that. Can't really have it because it's essentially, here's a version and here's a name of a thing. I mean, there's a couple else, but not much is required in an SBOM. And of course, the SolarWinds attack, the thing that started this whole craze, knowing what the version number is of the Orion platform, 2019.4 through 2020, blah, 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 like, you only know it was malware after the attack. So you're only actually going to get some benefit of having the SBOM for this kind of attack after the fact. But I think one of the other kind of frustrating things is version numbers themselves are actually meaningless. There's no requirement in any way for them to be meaningful. I could commit 50,000 new commits to my GitHub, never change the version number. They're all different, right? Case in point, this is actually the legitimate version of PuTTY 7.7, and then the DPRK backdoored version. And SBOM would essentially say the same thing, right? It's PuTTY, its release version is 7.7, the company, Simon Tatham. Interestingly enough, PuTTY's interesting, so if you're trying to look up vulns, the CPE for it changed from Simon Tatham to PuTTY instead of Simon Tatham PuTTY at some point in the past. But I'm not even getting into the annoyance of changes in canonicalization of things. But again, there's all kinds of problems. what's interesting here is the malicious version, of course, has more behaviors because it's malicious. So you can actually look and say, hey, there's actually some persistence North Korea did. They'd add more data manipulations. There's a bunch of other things. But I think what's most frustrating about SBOM is, what are people actually going to do with SBOM? A lot of time, they're going to check a box. Like, that's all they care about. It's like, oh, hey, I'm going to stick these in a folder somewhere. Maybe when I picked a vendor, I'm going to look at the SBOM, maybe check like vulnerabilities, check known things. But the biggest thing is SBOM, people really care about SBOM are the regulators. So people will pick, and I've heard this multiple times, they will pick the cheapest solution, the easiest thing, just use GitHub, and move on because they're not actually going to use it. And that's annoying. Maybe vuln management, right? This is, of course, something incredibly useful. This is actually a really good use case for SBOM. But again, this isn't something that was going to solve the SolarWinds attack. And I mean, yes, it's a stupid thing for me to say. Like, of course not. It's a vulnerability. I have legitimately heard a cybersecurity vendor up at a talk somewhere saying, hey, we can find vulnerabilities like log4 shell. Of course, yes, that is in fact a vulnerability, right? And SolarWinds. It's like, okay, no, that was inserted malicious behaviors. Again, like, I get it. You need to have your marketing. You need to go out and say, hey, look at all the cool things we can do. It's like, in reality, just tell people the actual problems you can solve them. That's how you can build a good, sustainable company rather than selling snake oil. But that, again, that's so annoying.
Have you been in cybersecurity a while?
This is why it's frustrating. Exactly. I'm shocked that you're selling snake oil. Have a code signing. Of course, you should be signing your code. And then malware gets signed anyway, right? Like, your build system gets compromised. Okay, well, it's going to get signed. And hey, I mean, there have been public reports of Microsoft signing malware. This is publicly reported. It happens, right? All right. No comment on that one. But still, you know, if your build system is compromised, the attacker gets control what gets signed, right? And just like what happened to the SolarWinds attack. Reproducible builds. Again, good ideas, defense in depth. However, if it's in your source code or somewhere in that chain, the malware will get reproduced, right? How about multiple build systems? Again, I actually really like this one. I like this idea of like, hey, let's build it a bunch of different times and see what happens. There's some complications there. But again, it's going to be harder, but how do you actually know if you're safe or if they just got everything, right? Right. I mean, SolarWinds SolarWinds remediation was, in fact, to do this. But again, you still need to convince your customers that it's safe if they actually cared. Because think about it, most of the time, are the end users actually asking for any of this stuff? You download an app on your phone, maybe you see permissions and you're like, all right. I mean, we're all cyber nerds, so maybe we do a little bit more, but the average end user is just like, I want to play Candy Crush. I don't care that they're stealing all my data, right? If you're at a better company, organization, you're like, oh, hey, questionnaires. We're going to check these boxes, right? Like that's what it comes down to. Like once a year, we'll get our questionnaire. We'll say, are you guys SOC 2 compliant? How are you doing all this stuff, right? And all of the work people are doing, it still comes back down to that questionnaire, that checkbox. What's actually kind of nice is this isn't entirely true. Like people are getting better about this, and I think that's something that, as somebody in cyber, it's actually helpful. People who have been specifically targeted are looking for solutions, are solving these problems, are getting better at this. Bigger tech companies, the government obviously cares a lot about this. This is why they're pushing regulations. And organizations that are in more heavily regulated companies, organizations like financial industry, healthcare, like the FDA is pushing for both SBOM and cyber requirements around vulnerabilities. So it's not just SBOM, it's a little bit more than that, which of course is something. But ultimately, it does get kind of mind-numbing at the end because most people don't actually care. it seems like this is fine. What are we going to do? Are we going to keep moving forward? I think we need to. But I think what was that? Right. I think most of the time, people are just going to do what we're always doing because it's cheaper, it's easier. We're just going to say, hey, we'll do the bare minimum to check the box. We're going to trust our vendors. We're going to trust our build system. We're going to trust open source. We're just going to send things out and hope it's okay in the end. I mean, mostly because otherwise you'd actually have to do something, and people have to change, people that have to make it better, right? And ultimately, people are usually the biggest problem in cybersecurity. So I'm done. That's it. Any questions? I think I'm done, right? Oh, look, I got stopped.